Alright, in this lesson I'm going to talk about how to graph functions and choose an appropriate window in a TI Nspire Graphing Calculator, whether you have the CAST version or the non-CAST. This will work, and I do have a sheet that I gave my students. If you want to go to this bit.ly link, that will print the sheet that I'm using for the problems that you may want to use. On the AP exam, there are 4 things that you need to do on your calculator, and you can see the 4 right here. And this one, we're going to talk about how to plot a function within an arbitrary viewing window. And we're going to do number 1 right here. We're simply going to graph that function and then figure out how to adjust the window to see all of the key components. The key components usually being your x-intercepts, y-intercepts if relevant, and maxes and mins. And so here's our function. And first thing I'm going to do is go to my calculator and I'm going to enter that equation. For simplicity, I'm going to use the scratch pad, which I think is more convenient because you can just toggle back and forth between the calculator screen and the graph screen. And in F1, I'm going to enter this function. And there it is. So I entered my function, x over 500 cosine x over 120 squared. And always double and triple check that you do actually enter the equation correctly, and I am doing that. Also, make sure that you're in radian mode. So look up here in the top corner, you should see radian. If you're not in radian mode, you need to fix that. And the last tip is if you want a top-bottom fraction instead of the fraction that looks like this, if you hit the division button, it will give you that type of fraction. If you want top-bottom fraction, simply hit Control Divide, and it will open up a template to do a top-bottom fraction, a little bit easier to see. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Graph. There's my graph, and boy, we are hovering very, very closely to the x-axis. I'm going to have to adjust that. Also, in the problem, you are told to look at the domain. There it is. You're told to look at the domain 0 to 150, and we obviously have to make some changes on the y-axis as well. So there are 2 ways to do that. One of them right here, you can hit Menu, go to Option 4, which is Windows Zoom, and then Option 1, which is Windows Settings. And so if you do that, Menu, Windows Zoom, Windows Settings, and it will open up a window where you can choose your minimum x value, your maximum y value. I always just leave the scale to auto, and then you can also adjust the minimum y and the minimum x. That is one way to do it. I have recently learned a more convenient way to adjust the window, and that is simply by clicking on, and you'll have to use your touchpad over here in the middle button to click, but if you go to where your minimum x and y and maximum x and y are displayed, you can click on that. Whoops, let me move that out of the way. You can click on that, and it will eventually, come on, work with me. There we go. It will make that an editable field where I can now type in whatever I want my minimum x to be, and I want it to be 0. So I'm simply going to hit 0. Now, if I hit Tab, it will work its way around to all of the other max and min values. And I'm going to go all the way over to the maximum x, and the maximum x was supposed to be 150? I think it was 150. And if I hit Enter, now my x has changed from 0 to 150. I'm going to double check and make sure it was 0 to 150, and yes it was. Okay, but I need to adjust my y's also, and we are very, very, very close to the x-axis. So I'm going to come down here, move you out of the way, come down here and click on that until it allows me to edit it. There we go. And we are so close. I may do like -1, and I'm going to tab up to my maximum y. I'm going to keep pressing tab. +1, hit enter, and there we go. Looks like we're still kind of far away. If you want to edit that one more time, you can. I'm going to change that to maybe -0.1. Tab up, and you notice the advantage of doing it this way where you tab through is it adjusts your window in real time as you edit each one. Going to go up here, and I think I may go to 0.3 on my y. And there, now I have a really good idea of what this graph looks like. So I simply wanted to show you that method for choosing an appropriate window and just kind of finagling your maxes and mins until you see all of the characteristics of the graph that you want. Now, I tend to stay away from zoom in and zoom out. I don't like being at the mercy of the calculator's computer determining what the window is. I very much like manually adjusting. There is also, and this is like a last resort, and this is also on that page if you look at the bottom of the section on the handout, there is a zoom fit. And what zoom fit will do is the calculator will kind of look at the graph itself and try to choose what it thinks is the appropriate window And sometimes if I'm really having a hard time, I'll go zoom fit and just see what the calculator thinks, and then I'll make adjustments to whatever the calculator has for zoom fit. That's really a last resort, and I very, very, very seldom have to do that. So there is an example of how to graph something. And then one last key, if you happen to make a change to a graph or something and you wish to undo it, like, oh no, I didn't mean to do that, the keyboard shortcuts on the Nspire are the same as keyboard shortcuts on a computer. So on the computer, Control-Z will undo something. If I hit Control-Z on the Nspire, it will undo whatever my last change was there. Just to change my Ymax back to what I had before I changed it to 0.3. So there we go. There's graphing a function in an arbitrary window. And next thing I'm going to look at in the next video is how to solve equations, how to find zeros, and then store those solutions in your calculator.